It's time for Recipe of the Day. For your Taco Tuesday pleasure, I have some Carne Asada tacos for you today. Perfect for a weeknight like tonight. So unlike the usual traditional Carne Asada recipe, this doesn't have a big marinade time. It's really, really easy to do. And it's just so delicious. And well, it's Carne Asada and it's tacos. And so it's fun too. Everybody is going to have a great night when these are on the table. So like I said, this is like an easier spin on Carne Asada. There's no marinating going on here, and this is not a grilling recipe. I do have a traditional Carne Asada recipe on Cook the Story that I'll link to for you, but it does involve grilling and it does involve marinating time. Okay, there are 3 things that make this Carne Asada recipe the easiest Carne Asada recipe out there. That is, first of all, that we're not doing the marinade. Instead, we're taking those marinade flavors and turning most of them into a rub on the steak, and the other ones are going into a crema sour cream sauce. So instead of those flavors coming from the marinade, they are coming from the rub and from the cream sauce. So that's the first way that I've made this easier. The second way that I've made this easier is that I have tested and found the best way to heat up corn tortillas. I have never liked doing them in a skillet on the stove where you're just standing there doing like 1 or 2 at a time, wrapping them in foil. That always seemed unnecessary, but I didn't have a solution. And so I have found that you can actually do them under the broiler. It is great. I'm going to link to a post about how to do that. And then the third thing that makes these Carne Asada tacos the easiest is the toppings. So you can absolutely just get yourself a bag of a Tex-Mex chopped salad. I would say don't use the salad dressing though, because we're making that crema, but it's going to have some great flavors in there. The one that I buy is like chopped cabbage and lettuce, and then there's some cilantro, and then there's pepitas, like pumpkin seeds, and some crispy corn chips all in there. So you just like grab handfuls of that and then drizzle the crema and you're good. Or you can do other just store-bought quick toppings, right? You can buy a tub of pico de gallo and some guacamole and you're done. You see what I mean? So getting store-bought toppings, and then this dinner is the easiest, best Carne Asada dinner. So great. So let's make this. In a medium bowl, you're mixing together 3 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 2.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and 1.5 teaspoons of ground chipotle, or you can use chili powder. Mix that together and then take half of that mixture and put it into a separate bowl. We're going to use that for the cream sauce later. The other half is going to be rubbed into your skirt steak. So this is a 1.5 pound outside skirt steak. If you can get outside, often my grocery store only has the inside. So then you get the inside, right? And you're rubbing that on both sides of the steak, and then you're cutting it into 4 pieces. Now that's just because they're easier to fit into your skillet, the 4 pieces. So that is why we're doing that in 4 pieces. If you've got a massive skillet, you want to just do it in 2 pieces, that is totally fine too. I'll just remind you that when we are cutting skirt steak, you're cutting it against the grain. So you're not going like along the length of it in slices. You're turning it and cutting it against the grain. And I will link to my skirt steak post for you because that has the pictures and everything that you need to know. There's a video in there as well showing you the grain and everything. But so my point really is that if you cut it into the 4 pieces, you already kind of have it in the right shapes for doing this exact kind of slicing that you need. Okay, so now your steak has been rubbed with all those good flavors and cut into pieces. Set it aside. You're going to make that cream sauce. So to do that, you're mixing together 3/4 cup of sour cream, 1/4 cup of orange juice, the juice and zest of 1 lime. So that is getting all those beautiful citrus flavors, the orange, the lime zest, and then also that spice mixture that you set aside. So then we're getting the smoked paprika, the chili powder or chipotle, garlic powder, salt, all of that is happening all in there. Then you can mix that up and then put it into the fridge till it's time to serve dinner. Then you're going to cook that skirt steak. By now it's had a few minutes with that spice rub on it, flavoring the meat a little bit, and you can cook it. So you're going to get a big skillet over medium-high heat. You're adding just a little bit of oil to that skillet. It says a teaspoon, but whatever you need to just very lightly coat the bottom, and then add in those steak pieces, all 4 of them. And you're cooking them about 4 minutes per side for medium. The thing about skirt steak is that it's a little bit uneven thickness. Some bits are more thick than others. So that ends up being really good. If your household has people who like their steak at different donenesses, you can keep that in mind as you're cooking it. Leave some of them on longer, take some of the pieces off earlier. Just sort of make that work for you. My household tends to be more of of like a medium well household. And so I'm leaving them on for maybe more like 5 minutes aside. I'm flipping them after like 3 minutes when they're really brown on the underside. Flip them another 3 minutes, really brown on that side. Flip them back, maybe cut into one, use a meat thermometer, anything you want to do. You just want to get that to the temperature that your family's going to like. Then you're going to let those rest off the heat for about 5 minutes. And in that time, you're heating up those corn tortillas like I told you about. So they are going under the broiler. You're going to put them in a single layer on a baking sheet. You don't need to grease or do anything to that baking sheet. And then it's going about 5 to 6 inches from the heat source. You want the tortillas themselves to be that distance from that top heat source. And it's about 2 minutes, just until they start to have sort of brown spots on them. Take the pan out, flip them over, but don't put them back in. You're going to be putting your fillings on that soft, untoasted side. Now, if you overcook them a little bit and they're like dry, or if you don't need them right away, you can just take a whole stack of them that you've already broiled and put them in some aluminum foil, like a little package, and they will actually soften in there and they will stay warm. So that is an option for you. Okay. Then you get out those pre-made store-bought toppings that you're doing, slice that steak against the grain, and then pile those slices of steak into the heated tortillas with that crema sauce that you made and those toppings that you've got. And with that, your festive but relaxing dinner is served. I will put the link to this recipe in the podcast show notes for this episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and find it there. And of course, you can always search for things on Cook the Story. Go to cookthestory.com and use the search function. It works really, really well. You will find anything that I'm talking about there. Go ahead and bookmark cookthestory.com even, because it has thousands of recipes. You're always going to find what you need. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.